it's such a mover, much more than all my descriptions and all these serendipitous events that occur and all the problems with the big pockets and little pockets and thieves and bullies and warlords and just this dumb document.
If I'm hearing this correctly, you've spent 4 years pitching pre-coiners on the fact that Bitcoin is an incredibly useful tool that we can all use to make life more fair. And that hasn't worked. Way to go, humanity. But now what you have is a different pre-coiner pitch, which is, guess what, bruh? Government says so. Now what's up? And that's working better than anything you've tried.
Probably don't say it exactly like that.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you're brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, resident Bitcoin smash buyer when my wife lets me. And we're giving away 10 million sats. 10 million sats. We're giving away 10 million sats.
I want some freaking sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their heads.
Say it isn't so, Chris.
I mean, it's
10% of a Bitcoin.
It's crazy.
That's 0.1 Bitcoin.
I mean, giving away 10 million sats. All you have to do to enter, go to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. You're in. That's it. When we get to 100,000 subscribers, which you've still got like 98,000 to go.
Yeah, it's going to fill. Slots are going fast.
Slots are going fast.
They are actually.
They are.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't realize it, but they are.
Oh, as soon as people realize, it'll all be gone immediately. So get in now.
I have a mechanics diesel YouTube channel. It took me about a year and a half to get to 1,000 subscribers. So you guys are actually growing very fast.
Hey, I like that.
Just from a point of reference of a sample group, you're growing very fast.
Thank you.
Boom.
Thank you.
So smash the subscribe now.
That's all you got to do.
Because how would you feel if we get to 100K overnight and you're like, oh,
It's too late.
the 10 million sats. You can say, dude, I could have had generational wealth.
Lost opportunity.
Because you just want to lurk. You just want to lurk and be a viewer? Nah, subscribe.
What are you doing? You wake up every morning, you check the price of Bitcoin and how many subscribers Sat Chats has. All right, we're marching towards number 9, Kristen, which is Stuart's wife. Stuart's going to be trying to convince her to let him buy more Bitcoin than he's currently buying.
All right, so we've got number 88, Mark, in the studio here today. I met Mark at the Raleigh Bitcoin meetup, which is every Tuesday evening at, is the name of the bar Crafty?
Yeah, it's Crafty Beer and Wine. It's right at 5 Points, center of Raleigh.
Yeah.
We all call it Steve's Bar.
Yeah. It's number 60, Simple Steve's Bar. So before we get your Bitcoin story, help our Satillionaires out there get to know you just a little bit. You know, who are you? What do you do? Just kind of a little primer so we know who we're talking to.
Okay. Well, so my name is Mark, and originally we're I like to say we've escaped from we've relocated from San Francisco, and we tried Sweden for a year. My wife's from Sweden, and it was kind of a bust. It was a little too dark, and my kids were having a hard time with it all. And my wife was actually like, this wasn't a good idea. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go back to California. So she picked a place that she's a very smart woman. Like, she's a graphic designer and everything, but she just loved watching HGTV, and she loved this area the most with the houses.
Wow.
And we just chose this area based on what was on HGTV. And only now have we realized, like, all, Chapel Hill and NC State and all these golf courses and the Lego Con just happened last year,
my son went.
last week. Yeah, I was like,
What?
yeah, the country's premier Lego displays was here in Raleigh, and
Charles went.
Dude.
there's a lot of stuff happening here. Like it's all on the down low.
Yeah.
And then, I feel like I'm persistently driving on a cruise ship with all the trees and the pristine roads, and it's not at all like this in the rest of the world. So it's a very nice area.
How long have you been in Raleigh?
We're this month. It's 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Raleigh. Okay. Oak City. Come visit us.
Well, they're building the infrastructure very fast. Like, it's impressive where it's not a reactive build after 20 years of congestions and 10,000 lawsuits where they're finally trying to build something, but they can't close the highway anymore and that sort of thing, which is what we left, So hopefully they could keep proactive like that. And, but yeah, it's every build site I'm on, half of them are, half of the build sites I'm on, it's all housing, buildings and all that. I have a diesel repair company, hence why my wife is tired of diesel talk, right? That was the point of that. But half of the job sites I'm on, it's just building homes and businesses and all that.
So I guess when I learned you were a diesel mechanic, I just imagined you were working on like 18-wheelers all the time. But you actually are going to job sites maybe to repair diesel engines that are powering something, almost like a generator or something like that.
Yeah. So pickup trucks are, no, I do work on 18-wheelers also. Anything that's big and hard to move. So a pickup truck is not a good fit for my company, because we're dragging an 18-ton truck, and then there's a lube truck as well. But the main toolbox is an 18-ton toolbox, and they have to pay like between $600, to $800 if it's far out to bring this toolbox out to a job site. So things that are towable, like pickup trucks, it's better to tow them into shops. But half of it is equipment and half of it is just class 7, class 8 on highway trucks and that sort of thing.
You're saying your toolbox that you take to a job site weighs 18 tons?
It's a joke. It's an 18-ton toolbox on wheels. Steve saw it and his jaw dropped. Like, it's hard to imagine, but it's a Kodiak GVW 36,000 pound truck, and it's just completely full of tools.
Wow.
Yeah, I parked it and switched over to my pickup truck because I didn't want to drag it into this neighborhood, so I just it's a big truck,
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's the fiat part, I guess, right? So
that's how you mine fiat is with that, right?
That's exactly right. That's how I mine fiat.
So talk to us. So what we want is your Bitcoin story, right? And it kind of breaks down into what was it like before you found Bitcoin, and then what happened to where you found Bitcoin, and now what is it like that you found Bitcoin, right? So I just want to break that down into like beginning, middle, and end. So what was your life like before you found Bitcoin? What problems were you up against? What kind of conditions drove you to search for and ultimately find Bitcoin?
Well, I guess the middle part of the story is going to be Bitcoin became necessary. But in the beginning, I just looked at it like, as an investment. I do a lot of options trading as well. And it sounded kind of interesting. And this was in 2020 when it started to shoot up to about 20 grand a coin. And but as I started to learn more about it, and I was like, wow, this solves a lot of problems, as far as, you know, um, I have a couple of friends that they've been debanked for a variety of reasons. That's the traditional thing, other than money go up, whereas Bitcoin goes from an investment to a tool, right? And it's very helpful for scenarios like that. And then a couple of friends that have gone through seriously bad divorces, and one of them, his wife's dad is a billionaire, and his wife's dad didn't like him, and she just got a whole team of lawyers, and and the guy did okay, but you know, his net worth was definitely in the millions, but he wasn't a billionaire. And I'm like, just got torn to shreds, and I'm like, oh, Bitcoin would solve that problem. And then, you always hear about all the the gangsters wanting rent at the exit point of the Western Union places, and you got to pay all the fees to get the money down there. And then, in California, there's a lot of guys have family in Mexico and Guatemala. Those are the two main ones that I know. And it solved that problem. Like a lot of the old French colonies, I think by the time you pay all the fees, the legal fees, in Africa, the French colonies in Africa, you're down to $15 on 100 after all the bribery and everything. Bitcoin solves that. So I start learning more and more about all that. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then the real big kicker for me, oh, here, I'm going to turn to the camera because this is, I was told if it's important, like, all right, just go right at it. But the real big kicker was I have a friend, Doug, who's a Mason, and he's like an artist, right? He's a big, big guy, right? So you think of a Mason as like this knuckle dragging rock picker upper, right? And it's easy to misinterpret Doug as that, but he just makes beautiful, beautiful pieces for very rich people, right? Just floating rocks and spiraling walkways and just unbelievably complicated things. And he starts with very large pieces of stone, and he got involved in a project fixing up an old military base in San Jose, and it was called Mount which was turned into a military base, and then they turned it into this park. And he got hired out by a company that had a lot of litigation against it, and their strategy was to never pay their subcontractors. And we would sit at a bar and like, I wish there was a Yelp for general contractors. Like they've got Yelp for, an Angie's List and all that. And then it got me thinking, I'm like, wow, Bitcoin really would solve this, where like, if you had a labor escrow and you have to put the money in, like, so with these general contractors, the way the laws work in many states, I know California is one of them, like you have to pay the subs within 30 days of receiving the final check. But there is no protocol following up on that, and he ended up losing about 150 grand. And I'm like, and he, and he's in the middle of fixing up his house, and they went without a heater through 2 winters, and it really set him back. And, he's got kids and all that. And I'm like, wow, if you could have a labor escrow style company where the money has to be set aside, almost like they have this for, they're called performance bonds, right? Where they'll protect the person, that the vendor that's writing the check, right? But it doesn't do anything as far as protecting the sub, the person providing the labor. Like you could have an escrow company where you put the money in as Bitcoin, and then you have a security protocol where each person gets part of the key, but nobody could steal the money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the main contractor, which is what Doug went through, he never paid, right? But the main contractor, as long as promises of work were performed within the scope of work, the main contractor has no control over it anymore. And then you would have the escrow company decide if this is the case or not. And it doesn't exist. And then that's kind of what, because I deal with all this stuff all day long in the building industry, repair industry, and all that. And so a few of my friends that are very, very clever with writing code, because, this is like the research triangle, right? And so we started a labor escrow company. And once again, Bitcoin is being used as a tool rather than an investment. Like there are utilitarian uses between, and that's my whole point to this whole thing. Like people that, went through getting out of jail. I've got a few customers that drive trucks, but they live in a cash world, and they've been so debanked, right? And every time they try to open a bank account, they owe so much in back taxes with the IRS. It's just their claws, and they don't have a chance. They don't have a reset button. It used to be you jump off a building, and maybe your next life you could get a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden now there's an opportunity, because they say, oh, you always have a way, you hire a lawyer and all that. It's like, that's complete BS. Like these guys are just barely getting by driving these trucks. They can't hire a lawyer to fight Uncle Sam. And it's just, they have devolved into a cash only world. Right. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's your reset button without waiting for your next life. Right. Bitcoin's a tool. Labor escrow, Bitcoin's a tool. Dealing with psychopath laws about divorce, Bitcoin's a tool. I mean, it just goes on and on, other than money go up. And that's when, I'm driving and I'm putting it all together. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, everybody's going to realize this. I need to buy as much as I can as quick as possible. That was 4 years ago. And I'm like, I couldn't have been more wrong about that. It's very hard to get people to see all the serendipity in it all the utilitarian. They just don't see it.
So you're talking about, I mean, there is what draws in many of us, which is number go up. Just like me, I've been working a career with a salary that steadily increased over time.
Doesn't match inflation.
And I reach a point in my career where my salary makes me feel like I've got an 18-ton something or other. And I sit down to the budget session with my wife and it's tight. And I'm like, what is going on? I see Bitcoin and my initial take is, oh, I put in a little bit and it becomes a lot. And I can finally have some plan to get up and out of this rat race, because the retirement was also not tracking correctly and all that stuff. But you're saying on top of that, or to the side of that, are all these truly utilitarian items, such as protecting your wealth from your billionaire father-in-law. Woof. What a situation.
I wish I could use names. I don't know. He probably wouldn't like it, but
yeah,
he's finally done with it. But yeah, that was a brutal thing for him. He lost about 7 million in that thing.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And also something new that I didn't really quite understand. I knew that there was a cost to send money around the world, like for remittances. If you're here in America making US dollars and you send them back to Guatemala, they're going to go further there than they do here. And I knew that Western Union and other places, they're all set up to really kind of be the trolls on the bridge and take their cut. I didn't know that there were literal people waiting outside of these locations to kind of like siphon off a part of it from you and your physical body.
Well, yeah, they call it rent. It's not everywhere. I know Jack Mahler talks a little bit about it in one of his speeches too. But the French Polynesian, the old colonies, they're the worst in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just, everybody wants a little rent, yeah. So you
have that. And then you have this you started a labor escrow company where, if I can simplify this for the Satillionaires to see if I even understand it myself, we talk about multi-signature setups where it's kind of like, the Russians need one key and a second key, and they need two humans to turn those keys at the same time to get the nuclear missiles to roll out, right?
Hopefully
maybe not a good example in today's environment, but you get that. Everybody thinks about, They're on the submarine. The lights are flashing red. They both put in the
Let's go safety deposit box.
safety deposit box. Okay.
Yeah, two keys.
Right.
Open
So
it up.
you're saying in a labor escrow, instead of people getting screwed over by contractors that are not good contractors, for the subcontractor to do the work, they would need to see the requisite amount of Bitcoin go into a multi-signature setup. Maybe the contractor has one key, the subcontractor has one key, the labor escrow company has one key. You need 2 of these 3 keys to go in and turn for the Bitcoin to go anywhere after that. So if the contractor says subcontractor did not do the work and the labor escrow company says, correct, it hasn't been done yet, the subcontractor can't go in, turn one key, get the Bitcoin.
And that is the more common problem. The one I described is the opposite. But
Right.
what you're saying is the common problem where the sub disappears and he goes on a binge, right? And that's the common one, right? And that's why they have what's called performance escrow for large scale projects, because the vendor paying doesn't want to get screwed by the subs.
But your friend got screwed the other way where he did the work and the contractor was like, well, I'm not going to pay you. But in that situation, the escrow company could say, well, the work's been done. They put in their key. Your buddy puts in his key. And that contractor's money goes to him, period.
Bravo. Very good. And it's not such a problem in the US. It is a bit of a problem here. I mean, I could tell you 10 stories, but where it's really a big problem is when you get outside of the US, where basically you've got people with big pockets and then you've got bullies with big pockets. And you got to protect the people with the little pockets from the bullies, right? And this is sort of a useful tool to help everybody, as long as they perform what's promised, they're reimbursed and they could be confident that nobody's going to pull a fast one. So like right now, there's a real need they're talking about building a dam in Haiti. I'm like, who in their right mind would ever take on a job like that, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, if you could pull the money out without the Haitian king, president, dictator, I don't know what they call him now, like not freaking out that they're going to steal my money. It's like you could go in the worst parts of the world and do civil projects. Now, of course, this is just being developed. There's a lot of protocol for security and not losing the Bitcoin, and it's way more complicated than what we're telling you. But yeah, me coming from the labor part of society, I see a lot of guys getting screwed, and so this was a really good way to go about solving the problem. So
what do you think is keeping, 4 years ago, you got hit with this realization that Bitcoin is a tool and you need to go get as much of it as you can before everyone else figures it out. But it's been 4 years and barely none of us have figured it out yet. What do you think is keeping everyone from being like, uh-oh, Bitcoin?
Yeah. So I only have theories, right? That doesn't mean what I'm about to tell you is fact, but so my theory is I think generally 10% of people are pretty dynamic and they get bored easily and they don't like to think inside the box very, very often, right? They're all over the place. And I think your Bitcoiners mostly, at least the early adopters, started from that 10%. And then I think 80% of us just want to be on autopilot. They like, I played by the rules. I went to college. I got this job. And they're not questioning, like, the only way to really keep my wages in check with inflation is to go find another job, right? They're not into all that, right? They just want to be on autopilot. And I think if somebody gives them permission to adopt Bitcoin without getting off of autopilot, then they'll adopt it. And the only reason I say this is because I was talking to you guys earlier about this, but you've got that new mandate from the Federal Housing something Commission, the FHFA, where it's instruction 2025-360. It's this big, beautiful piece of paper. It's got the federal docs, the stamps, all that saying Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are the main conforming loan, the main banks for housing. Look, you guys have to consider Bitcoin holding. Well, they say crypto in the wording, but I'm just going to say Bitcoin. But you have to consider cryptocurrency holdings as part of people's treasury, right? You still have to have provable income and you have to have good credit, right? But all of a sudden, they want to know you're capable of paying if you lose your job and all that. So they want your bank account, right? And so that's been talked about on a few YouTube channels, and it's very exciting, but nobody's talking about the next part, and that's this ties in with people not having to that they could stay within the box and not be adventurous, or they don't have to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say adventurous because all of a sudden I'm like saying they are boring. I'm not saying that. They don't have to take unnecessary risks, right? So they just want to live their life in peace, and Bitcoin is risk, right? All of a sudden, document instructions 2025-360 comes out saying, hey, bankers, you have to consider Bitcoin when you're considering giving people loans. And I have a lovely loan agent. Her name is Fina. She makes jokes about, she's Mexican, she's 75. She used to work for Chase. That's where I met her. And she makes jokes about how she's disappointed with people and Mexicans from Raleigh. They don't know how to cook proper Mexican food, and then we always have jokes about we should have a cooking contest, right? Because I'm a very, very particular cooker. I even have a hummus recipe for you, which I'm gonna get your opinion on at the end of this show. But
super.
But I always make jokes with her about like she's half loan agent and half marriage counselor, right? Just lovely, salt of the earth kind of person. And she hates Bitcoin. She hates it, hates it, begs, please, because I took a little cash out of the house just to buy Bitcoin, right? And please don't do it, please. I'm begging you. I've been on this earth a lot longer than you. The whole spiel. That was 3 years ago. She has yet to apologize. Like, I mean, she won't. She's being so stubborn. And then all of a sudden, I email her the loan doc, and then I text her. I'm like, "Are you guys going to now consider Bitcoin as part of people's treasury when you're handing out loans?" And she's like, "I should read the text. It's right. Probably within 6 months, we'll be considering it." Boom. Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's it.
But to me, it was like Charlie Munger saying it, right? Warren Buffett saying rat poison squared, all that crap. All of a sudden, like it was so significant that, and then like in the Raleigh group, four guys sent that same document, and the consensus is nobody yet will consider it. They're working on how to go about it. But the consensus is at least now they're talking about it. Like it's so much more significant than the actual, will banks consider, my treasury in Bitcoin against a loan? It's the fact that they're now not rolling their eyes and thinking you're an idiot, right? So they have permission to stay inside the box, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have to take risks anymore. Like it's such a mover, much more than all my descriptions and all these serendipitous events that occur and all the problems of the big pockets and little pockets and thieves and bullies and warlords and just this dumb document, and then it's the end is 2025-360. It comes around full circle. And I'm like, is that coincidence? I'm like, so anyway, I wrote Matthew Cratter and I'm like, dude, talk about this and get everybody to ask their bankers. And they're all going to say no, but now they have to give a legitimate real world answer instead of, I will never do it. You guys are nuts. It's gambling, blah, blah. you know, so yeah, he never wrote back, but now I'm talking about it on your podcast.
Come on.
Yeah.
Matthew, we just scooped it with Mark here, dude. We got the scoop.
Ooh, I'm looking
okay.
at the camera.
So number one, bruh, you should have listened to your boy number 88, Mark. Number two, come on the show, because apparently you got a YouTube channel where you talk about Bitcoin as well.
Let me make sure I understand this too, and also read it back for some pre-coiners who are definitely watching. So before this bill, what you were asking, what Bitcoin was asking of that 80% of people was to basically delete a part of their net worth in the eyes of a loan officer or a bank, because the loan officer or the bank would not count your Bitcoin holdings as on the asset side of your personal balance sheet.
Yeah.
So that when they looked at your liquidity and evaluated your net worth so that they could arrive at a figure of how creditworthy is this person, the Bitcoin just didn't count. So you were asking that play it safe, I'm just going to go get my job, my 401k, 9 to 5 person to take a chunk of their, right, and just put it over here. Now this new bill changes all that.
Right. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So originally you'd have to take a loan against your Bitcoin, maybe at 10%, right? And then stick it in your bank account for them to look at it as cash. Any bank account. It doesn't have to be Chase's bank account in my case, as long as I could show proof that it's sitting there. You know, so now I'm wondering, I'm like, are we going to have to put it on Coinbase or one of these exchanges for them to consider it? Or will they like, here, this is my address. Here, I'm going to send you 5 sats right now. So prove I have access to this address. So that's the unknown now, you know, but yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly it. And all of a sudden, all these people that are like, you know, this is nuts. This is gambling. All of a sudden, they're not like saying, I'm sorry, you're right. But at least they're now having a real conversation.
Yeah.
So you're saying that because we like to get your pre-coiner pitch as part of the episode.
Ooh,
right?
Nice.
So, you know, we know that there are pre-coiners watching, and you can approach Bitcoin from so many different angles that we're constantly searching for killer angles, right? That really make an impact on people. And if I'm hearing this correctly, you've spent 4 years pitching pre-coiners on the fact that Bitcoin is an incredibly useful tool that we can all use to make life more fair. And that hasn't worked. Way to go, humanity. But now what you have is a different pre-coiner pitch, which is, guess what, bruh? Government says so. Now what's up? And that's working better than anything you've tried.
Yeah, I probably don't say it exactly like that.
but yeah. for the 80% who are on autopilot, when they pick up their head and you say, hey, the government says you got to do this, then they're like, oh, okay, right? Yeah. So, and by the way, we didn't go over what you said. 10% are outside the box. They're adopting Bitcoin early. 80% want to stay on it. What's going on with the remaining 10? Where are they at?
Well, have you ever heard of the book The E-Myth?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Graeber, is his name? Michael Graeber, I think.
Yes. And basically it talks about working on your business and not in your business. And he uses the story of a woman making pies, and she loses all her employees and she just decides to do everything in the bakery, and she's doing 18 hours a day. And anyway, he turns her around, and it's a very famous book for entrepreneurs. And there's a group of people that just enjoy, and he talks about it in this book. That's the first time I ever read about it, and it makes sense. They're not successful, and they don't have what it takes to be successful, but they have what it takes to create chaos. And, you know, like I need to hold you back. They only thrive in a world of disinformation. And yeah, like you don't want to be yucky like that. Right. And, some people could say they're evil even, right? I wouldn't say they're all evil, but they just gain pleasure out of, chaos and people stumbling and all that, right? And I wish it was 2%, but the problem is if this 10% becomes powerful, the 80% will do whatever their bosses decide. So like if I go to a job site, I used to see this all the time in California, literally like 1 out of every 10 job sites, where you show up with your crew of guys. I had 6 guys back then. So it would only be anywhere from 1 to 4 guys per job site, right? And if all the employees are dicks, then the main captain's going to be a dick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've only seen this once in Raleigh, but I knew as soon as I start dealing with the employee, I'm like, oh, the captain of the ship's going to be awful, and he's been awful to them. The problem is when the captain of the ship is, very powerful, like, Hitler's the common one, but, Stalin, Mao, those are the big examples. But there's lots of people in positions of power that they just enjoy chaos and disruption. And that's what they get off on. Some people it's doing good things. Some people it's just making money, right? And it'd be great if they were into doing good things, but they're not hurting people. They're just like, these are the rules. I'm going to go make as much money as I possibly can. But then there's others that, the bottom 10%. And so I think with the E-Myth, it was he labeled them as C's, like there was A, B, C's, and D's. And I don't remember the definitions of all the types of folks, but there was the ones that had your back but didn't take risks. And then there was the creatives, and then and they all had a need. And even the C's had a need. But, Gerber was talking about, they just don't want people to succeed, And so, once again, it's just observation. I haven't written a PhD. I haven't written a thesis on it. So I don't know, but I feel like it's 10%.
What is your life like now that you found Bitcoin? Now that you're a Bitcoiner, what is life like for you? We'll stop there. What's your life like now that you've got Bitcoin?
Yeah, I wish I could say something like, I can see again, right? Or for me, I wasn't really struggling before, we've been struggling a lot more since we've come back from Sweden. And I've just been collecting as much as I can, and I definitely haven't collected enough. Just kind of batting down the hatches, just in case. But, the diesel repair thing is going fine. And my wife, she's a graphic designer, and she's doing her thing and all that. So I wish I could give you this incredibly, I found Jesus story, but I just, the only thing I have is like, hope for things to be more fair. That's the only thing. I think this is a useful tool amongst humans, right? Humans are flawed, right? So I think they say Venice is the longest population of people that didn't start clipping coins and printing money. Everybody has failed, and Venice lasted 300 years. So everything else has been a disappointment, and World War I is really when we start speeding things up. And now I'm like, okay, now I have hope that people, when we work, right, we have, your placeholder for energy is this podcast and whatever else it is that you do in the fiat world. Mine right now is repairing diesel engines and drive lines, hydraulics, all that. Yours is hummus, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk to you about that recipe. So we all have energy that we contribute, right? And we need a consensus for the placeholder, right? And the consensus for the placeholder was, fiat. And all of a sudden, if you switch to Bitcoin, well, that opens up so many opportunities where it becomes fair again, and Alex Gladstein has a phenomenal book, and he's probably my number one Crowder's my favorite, and then Gladstein is number 2 as far as Bitcoiners to listen to. But once everything becomes fair, even if you don't have big pockets, you can't be bullied by civil forfeiture, and you can't be bullied by, the guys waiting for rent, at the exchanges and all that. And all of a sudden, you spend more of your creative energy making more instead of protecting what you got, and just, will I ever be an Elon Musk? No, I'm not, I don't, but I'm hopeful that whatever I do will count, and it won't be, dissolved by some idiot printing more dollars, right? And so it's very hopeful, right? And,
Yeah.
But we weren't. I mean, if I'm being honest, we don't really struggle here like people struggle in other parts of the world. It's made a world of difference in lots of parts of Africa. Where, I think Kenya has a really rock solid system. So I don't know how Bitcoin's going to be adopted there. Are you guys aware Kenya's the only country I ever, because when I was working on the paper for First Coin Trust, I'm like, I need to find a nation that has fringed on hyperinflation and then come back from the brinks. And Kenya was literally the only country I could find where they hit 50, 60% inflation in around 84, and they brought it back down.
Wow.
And the only way for that to happen is, so the whole Eastern Europe communism thing, when the Soviet Union broke up, had or be had. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that saying. Like, my wife's classmate that emigrated to Sweden used to have the phrase in his wallet, had or be had. And that was the whole mindset. And in really rough parts of the world, that's there's different versions of that, right? Had or be had. And in order for somebody to come back from the brink of inflation, where everybody agrees that, no, we won't cheat people, and then you could bring it back down, the only one I could find was Kenya, right? So right now, they have a system where everybody could pay electronically, so they don't have the whole Goombaya, I need rent for, the service fee. So 99 point something % of the money gets transferred. And Kenya's not perfect. No place is perfect because humans are flawed, but they've got a lot of good things going for them. But the rest of the world, they have a system similar to Kenya's where you could transfer money and bypass a lot of bad characters, and so it's very exciting. I don't know. It's so easy. The Aqua Wallet is amazing. It's so easy. Like, I know I'm going to be number 80 behind you there, and I know I'm going to send you a code and piece of cake. It's not complicated.
Yeah,
no.
There's nothing complicated about it anymore.
No, it's super easy. Super easy. So let's recap that conversation then with Mark, because this has been exactly what I hoped for.
Yes.
Mark is a diesel mechanic. So you spent some time in California. You left there with your Swedish wife and with your kids. You spent some time in Sweden, but winter's a little too dark. So y'all came back from Sweden to America and chose Raleigh because your Swedish wife really likes HGTV. So about 4 years ago, you found Bitcoin, and you basically kind of went from trading options and puts and calls and just being generally interested in trading and the financial markets to finding Bitcoin and realizing that, yes, it is a number go up technology. It's also a tradable thing, but more importantly, it has so many uses. I mean, there are more uses to Bitcoin. Bitcoin can serve the role of more tools than there are in your 18-ton truck. You know what I mean? It's more useful than 18 tons of real world tools that you have, that you bring on site when you're repairing these diesel engines. Bitcoin is more useful than that, right?
Right.
Bitcoin is the 36,000 ton tool, man. You know what I mean? You got 18 tons, 36,000 ton tool, okay? And it can solve It can solve problems of people sending money back home. It can solve problems of people in the world of labor not paying them their subcontractors or running off with the money. It can serve as this amazing placeholder for everyone's energy. And it is so terribly useful. But in your most recent experience, this FHFA 2025-360, the government really knows how to just like title something to where it just really just kind of bam, talk about that zing. It's like, oh yeah, dude, FHFA 2025-360.
Yeah, it just
But
rolls right off the tongue.
basically, the federal government is now saying, and it's interesting that this hasn't been very widely covered up to this point. At least I haven't heard of it yet, but it seems like the federal government is saying, look, banks, if you're going to loan someone some of these, government tokens that we're issuing here from a centralized location, oof, you need to consider Bitcoin as part of their entire wealth portfolio against which to give them a loan, right? And more so than talking to other people about how this can fix so many things wrong, you're just starting to cut through and say, government says you got to do it. We're all in the fiat minds right now. But at least for me and for you as well, Bitcoin gives you hope that all your efforts are going to go somewhere.
That's the key
and they're
word.
going towards something. It's a lot easier to deal with your day job if you know that your efforts are going somewhere. You know, the biggest problem I had with my fiat job is that it felt like I wasn't going anywhere and that it was all set up to make sure I didn't go anywhere. So I think it's been a great conversation here. Let's take a little brain break.
All right. So Ithaca Hummus is our founding sponsor here at Sat Chats. Okay. So we are going to taste some hummus. I believe you selected the lemon dill.
Yep.
And so grab yourself a chip.
Okay.
Stuart
And we'll
I
all
are
crunch it together.
Okay.
Stuart and I will do the same.
I won't. What happens if your guest doesn't like hummus?
Oh,
We've had that once.
like my 12-year-old son, he made the nastiest face.
Really?
He was like, it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
all right, so let's
good.
crunch it to the mic. Cheers, boys.
Lemon and dill.
Ithaca.
Mm.
No wonder this guy's glowing.
Yeah.
It's just straight up good.
So good.
Very delicious.
So much flavor.
It's fully just good, man.
You want to hear something scandalous now?
Yeah.
All right. So when I make hummus, I do the whole, lemon juice and all the regular hummus steps, tahini and olive oil and what have you. I will do 60% garbanzos, maybe 65, and then I'll use 35 to 40% Kalamata olives
Oh.
and the juice.
Whoa. That sounds good. That
And
sounds really good.
I know it's scandalous.
Wow. 30%?
Maybe even 35, depending on how salty the juice is.
Wow.
The juice goes into.
So we had, and we don't have it anymore, a Kalamata olive flavor. Our ratio of Kalamata olives was 20%.
20%.
And it didn't sell?
Well, olives are eye level.
They're expensive.
Well, no, it's they're polarizing. It's like cilantro. Half of the country loves it. Half the country can't stand it.
There's a reason.
It was so good. It was so good. And everybody who liked it loved it. And it was a travesty when we had to swap it out for a different flavor because it didn't earn its spot on the shelf in velocity terms.
Billionaires, put this in the comments if you want the Lord Chris Kirby to resurrect his flavor and call it number 88 Marks Kalamata Olive.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Right?
I would do
and
that.
that way on the tub, your tub is referencing us and our show is referencing you. And then it's like
full 360, just
and then,
like the bank instructions.
And then your boy beyond the checkout, he's at the bottom. So that's tasty. That tub actually belongs to you now. That's yours to take home.
Oh, fantastic.
This is also yours to take home. So this is a gift from number 83 Aladdin, who's at the head of a company called BTC Trading Cards. He makes verifiably scarce trading cards about Bitcoin, the different concepts, because he wants to make it almost like flashcard level for people who are just getting started.
I've never even heard of that.
This is your pack to crack and take home, and we'll see what you get inside there. And we also have one more thing for you to choose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're big on gifts around here. So 46144.
Pack up the darn hummus now and I'll
Yeah.
eat it for lunch.
So finally, your choice. You get a choice. You get to make a choice for being here today. We believe in value for value. So we always offer each of our guests. He doesn't want to look at that for much longer.
I'm shocked about that.
The age.
The age.
Oh,
I'm just shaking my head about
It's
that.
disgusting.
That blows me away.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
Well, I'm going to choose the Sats, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Bam! Let's go. Now, how many is it, though?
All right. So according to Simple Steve's UTX Oracle Live, we've got a confirmed on-chain Bitcoin exchange rate of $108,302 for one Bitcoin.
Yeah, very well delivered.
And you divide 50 by that number, then you multiply that by 100 million because there's 100 million sats in every dollar, and you get 46,144 sats today.
Yeah.
All right. Blessing him up with the
Bam.
sats. Love it.
High five, dude. Thank you so much
so
because
good.
my 10-year-old daughter just ripped the $50 and left.
Hey, I was going to tell you too, I was saying this earlier, but Venmo now lets you hold Bitcoin. So whenever I Venmo people, they wanted to be Venmoed. Another way to orange pill is, would you like it in cash or do you want it in Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So Venmo's so common, and now you could send it, and it opens up another conversation.
So you bring our show's scoreboard to AT, who have now stacked the sats, along with 8 who need a little bit more time. We're trying to get to 100 who stack the sats before we get to 10 who choose the cash.
Wish us luck. It's getting close.
It's been neck and neck the whole time. We typically get about 10 guests who will stack the sats, and then one person comes on, rips the cash. Then we have 10 stack the sats, dude, rips the cash. And
right.
it's getting a little unmanageable, but we're hoping we can go on a tear and get up into the 90s. You know, if I can get to like 95 before we get to 9, I think we can make it all the way.
What's Kristen going to do?
Dude, number 99, my wife, if she chooses the cash, I'll have a heart attack and die. I'll die, dude. I really, really hope she chooses the Satoshis.
Damie Jaimin.
So let's see here. Mark, is there anywhere that you want these Satillionaires to go?
So I guess mobiledieselmedic.com is the website. And then or Fat Fix, FAT, like overweight, and FIX, like fix and repair. fatfix@gmail.com is an email. I don't really do X or any of that.
Okay, perfect. So we'll put all that information in the show notes for you Satillionaires, along with our Lightning and on-chain addresses. A link to our website, which you can click on to grab your slot in the studio today.
Yeah, please
This is the part of the show where we ask you for your value in exchange for ours. What do we value? YouTube subscription.
And watch hours, too.
So smash the subscribe button because it's going to go to 100K before you know it, okay? He said we were growing fast, y'all.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that means it's true.
Yeah.
And rip that playlist, right? Thanks so much for watching. Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views are their own. See you tomorrow.